we chase success feels like, this running on a treadmill.
Mhm,
The harder we push, the faster it spins. But we're not really getting anywhere.
mhm,
Listeners, what if the problem isn't our effort, but our mindset? What if the real game isn't about sprinting harder, but
mhm.
knowing when to plant seeds and when to hunt for the win? Listeners, welcome back to today's episode on the BizBlend podcast. We are joined by someone who embodies both a thinker shaped by Kerala's classrooms, Fortune 10 boardrooms, and the fire lit rituals of Theum. He is a strategist, a storyteller, and a satirist who can make geopolitics sound like stand up comedy while showing you how civilizations rise and fall. So, on BizBlend, we welcome Saji Madapat to explore how we escape the hustle culture, reframe authority, and build long term wins in a short term world. So, Saji, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really excited for our conversation.
Thank you, Sana. I'm a big admirer of your platform and the what you're doing and Avik is doing, and there are a lot of forgotten stories, like
Mhm.
especially in today's fluff world. I
True.
appreciate you giving me the platform. Yeah, unfortunately, of maybe I do have a slightly different take on my journey. It is not a mine was not on the typical treadmill. It is
Uh-huh.
my journey was mostly on a roller coaster, full of ups and downs. And like again, I learned from especially from my roller coaster ride. Especially in the downs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really it's interesting. It's really interesting, and so I think it's a great way to kind of express how your journey has been, Saji. So with that, let's talk also about, and this is very interesting, the hunter versus farmer mindset. I've never heard about that. BTW.
Mhm,
It's mindset as a way to break free from hustle culture. Now, we talk about multiple mechanisms, frameworks,
mhm,
these steps, 10 steps, 5 steps, and all that. For
mhm,
people who are constantly chasing the next opportunity,
mhm.
what's the first sign that they're, stuck in the hunter trap? But before that, if you can explain this hunter versus farmer one.
Hunter is somebody just look for next skill, very next short term opportunity, very
Okay.
next bonus, or next looking for a next 10 percentage raise on their salary, moving
Mhm.
or from a founder perspective, it's looking for a next exit rather than building the company which he built, rather than whether to last like a camel, for
Mhm.
a desert and the storms and tsunamis and all kind of, when he's uh, building from a unicorn perspective, from
Mhm.
a next exit, from selling to Google or on Amazon or whatever, whichever the companies,
Mhm.
especially in this part of the world. So looking at a very short term mentality, versus farmer is somebody who takes care of his farmland, takes care
Okay.
of not just the next harvest, next meal. He is the person farming the farmland or the forests for next centuries to come, generations to come. Versus
Mhm.
hunter is somebody is looking for a next kill or just the firewood, out of the farm. So looking from So I've been to that, especially in the latter part of the hundreds, especially after coming to this part of the world. Mostly doing the hunting in the
Yeah.
and in the financial engineering perspective, or or
Mhm.
looking from a very quarterly perspective, or looking my career perspective, or a very short term perspective, rather than
Mhm.
especially in the with all kind of geopolitical turbulences we are experiencing today.
Yeah.
um, the unicorns, the hunters, those who are looking for next chase or next kill. Unfortunately, that kind of hunters going to become a roadkill rather than need to look for the farmers, those who are planting the day, tending their, taking care of the soil, taking care of the employees or the team. They're going to weather it out like a camel, and they're going to survive the storm ahead of us, the storm in front of us. What's happening. Um, it is unfortunately the unicorns, the hunters.
Mm.
They're in it for a no. They just chasing the fluffs, chasing the lights, or in the yeah. They won't weather the storm.
Hmm. That's a very interesting parallel you have, you know, like shared, because there's definitely a logic in that.
Mhm.
Uh, we have been taught, we have been, we have heard stories, especially the tortoise and the rabbit one, and I can definitely see a lot of parallels in there, Saji. So yeah, I absolutely find it very interesting, because right now, almost every one of us, we pride ourselves on being fast and reactive, and people who are kind of um, patient, restrained, or
Mhm.
maybe slow, very calm. They may be, they may get looked down upon as weak or vulnerable. Um, and that's why I think sometimes we get this question in our minds that if I slow down, won't I get left behind? Won't will my loved ones or will my friends or colleagues,
Mhm.
people whom I know, they may find me inferior. So I think that really kind of flips the narrative in there.
Yes, sometimes you need to slow down. Sometimes you need to think. Are you a hunter or are you a farmer? So what kind of if you are a hunter, how can you get into the farmer track? This is that is the kind of opportunity I got, the good or bad. Back in 2008. I don't know, you were young enough to like in the career track at that time. That in 2008
Thousand.
economic tsunami, that is the time, especially I was playing the heavily into the hunter track, especially with the financial engineering kind of stuff which I was doing, very short termist perspective. In a way, in my own hunter perspective, on the financial engineering track, helped then the client around saving around several million dollars, half a billion dollars. Let me put it this way: $500 million, and as a result, the CEO got the bonus of I think about 10 million or $15 million bonus. The whole
Okay.
executives got a bonus, and the result of that one was a very short term perspective. Like laying off. They laid off around a couple of thousand people at least. At
Okay.
the end of the day, I also become one of the statistics, good or bad. That helped me to take a look at it from what am I doing with my life? What am I the with the it's I'm in a way ruining the foundations of that kind of company. Many of that company is no more in existence. By the way, right? Well, it is in different name and different. So that helped me to take a go back and look at it. I What I did is I spent about a couple of months in Hong Kong, and especially in Cambodian jungle,
Okay.
jungles, and I spent a little bit time in the killing field. I don't know how many of you and your audience are familiar with the Pol Pot. There are about 1 million people died assassinated in the killing fields, by the Khmer Rouge. So I did a little bit of a soul searching from the bottom of the pyramid perspective, from a hunter perspective. The Khmer Rouge, the hunters, they assassinated about over a million people back in 60s and late 60s. So when I looked at it, so from what's happening in the corporate perspective, or like from this part of the world, it is India is also not nowadays. It's not that different. Um, when I looked at it, if you look at it over here, as a result of some of the very short-term mentality here, as I mentioned, some of the financial engineering which I was doing, millions of people are get laid off. Millions of people are getting laid off, and from the financial engineering perspective, and especially with the private equity happening in this part of the world, we are ruining the foundations of the most of the corporations. We are outsourcing, especially um, offshoring many of those research and development in a very very critical fields. This in this part of the world, and you may in your part of the world, especially you may fond of Silicon Valley and
Yeah.
in the East Coast, in the Wall Street kind of, But you need to look at it. This is a big country. In between, much of the land is a rust field, wasted land. Most of these companies, most of these industries, they especially they did the contract manufacturing. Handed over they put it in many of those manufacturing sector, many of those industrial base. They put it on a barge and send it to China, and that part of to part of the. It's not just the manufacturing industries alone, the industrial base alone. They gift wrapped and send intellectual proprietary rights, research and
Mm.
development, the whole everything. They offshored it to the predominantly
Okay.
to the predominantly to the China. Now it is taking a big toll on it. As I mentioned, the Khmer Rouge killed around maybe around based on the statistics, it depends on it's around over a
Yeah.
million people. If you take a look at it as a result of this kind of the this kind of sending the manufacturing base and the whole research and development base, the everything back to the gift wrapping and sending it to the China and that part of the world, it is taking a big toll on. If you take a look at it, just on the from the number of people died out of the um, drug overdose in this part of the world, it's over
Mhm.
1 million people died, since actually since 1968 onwards in this part of the world. So the Khmer Rouge killed anybody who's wearing the glasses.
Okay.
Intellectuals and the doctors and the professionals, the engineers, the teachers, they killed. So in our own system over here, whether it is a management consulting side or on the private equity side or on the political class, they by offshoring, they they in a way killing our future over here. So many of these people are drug addicts, and many of this part of the world, like this, statistically, significant number of people are drug addicts. I think the India is also getting into the drug problem. You're also getting into that kind of issue, Sama, right? So many of those things, if you underneath, what you look at it, um, unfortunately, the middle class over here, the professional class over here, and especially with the emergence of AI now, the whole middle class sector, the whole professional class is getting pretty soon going to get wiped off. Instead of we are chasing the short term quarterly profits versus the China is with the farmer's mindset. They taking care of the foundational industries. They're taking care of the employment. They're taking care of like the every week the China is building a one world class university versus in the US. This is the statistics from last year.
Okay.
Every they're expecting. This is from the quote from a Harvard scholar. The U.S. is expecting to close 40% of the universities by
Oh,
in couple of years, by 2030, I believe, the number, So, so we are closing down the universities in this part of the world, and this is again from the last year. As of this year, things are getting even worse. We're cutting the funding on especially research and
yes.
development in the many universities over here, and we are ruining. This country is built. Especially the U.S. is built by the GI Bill. I don't know how
Mm,
many of your audience are familiar with. After the Second World War, when all the soldiers came back from the Second World War, then the presidential then the system they come out with a GI Bill. They send all those soldiers back to the university. They train them as a doctors or the lawyers or engineers. They build the foundations of capitalism. They build all the infrastructure over here. That we are enjoying the fruits. Right now, we are ruining those fruits. They are ruining those foundations. Again, India is also no way different. I don't know how many of you, especially with the AI, how many
mm,
of your own universities are going to survive, with this kind of, we still, unfortunately, again, I left India about 30 years ago. Yeah,
okay.
still the education system is not that different than, still
Yeah.
we are still following the Britishers, education system. We're
Mm,
still not, not um, taking advantage of we are not coming out with the next generation with the AI kind of talent required. Yeah.
yeah.
So we need to take care of, in short,
We need
don't
to take
look
care.
at the fluff, don't look at the short term next skill. So if you're looking for the next skill, you're going to become a roadkill. Take care of your be a farmer. Take care of your land. Take care of the don't just plant for the next meal or the next harvest. Plant it for centuries. Like what China is doing. They're looking at from a 2049 perspective versus over, especially in this part of the world, we are looking at corporations wise and especially public sector. They're looking from a quarterly perspective. The politicians, they're looking from every 4 years as a presidential cycle, and every year it's a midterm cycle. So typically our outlook is a 2 year the or the system political class change here. So their lifespan is typically like every other year they look for the next election. So very very short term mindset. So another aspect is about the private equity. They're ruining the foundations of especially research and development. That's like who wears the glasses, especially those who are above 50, those who are experienced, those who are with a company for a decent amount of time. They are more they're treated as cost centers, not as a
Mm,
knowledge base. Unfortunately,
mm,
that's a world we are living in, this part of the world. And then again, I don't think India is getting there, at least. Yeah.
mm, mm. And I mean, this kind of highlights a different structure of maybe governance or knowledge sharing.
Hmm.
Um, kind of challenges the very foundations in their in countries
Hmm.
or nations. Have you encountered like any um, conflicting views on this? Which may believe that it's a very structured approach, and this is something that will sustain civilizations. There can be anomalies, but this is for the good.
Well, the reason again I wrote the book, I don't, typically what over here, like again with the hunter mindset, people are looking at a very short term. So I come out with this contrarian. I hope you can see the book. The gods must be crazy. This is based on the The movie called the Gods Must Be Crazy. It's a 1980s African comedy movie. It's a one of the
Mm.
one of the classic movies. Especially it's one of mine. I'm a big movie buff, and this is a movie which I watched in I think 1984 or something while I was in India. It was in Doordarshan thing.
Mm.
I hope it was in YouTube before. I assume, again, you may look into like Netflix or Amazon Prime. It is Amazon Prime used to carry it before. Anyway,
Mhm.
um, this is they're looking at from the perspective of, in short, um, the Kalahari Bushmans. Back in those days, they were the most primitive people in the world. They had very little access to the rest of the world. They were the most primitive people on the world. They had no idea about what's happening outside world. So these guys, somebody is throwing a Coke bottle from an aeroplane, propeller plane. These guys are getting
Okay.
the Coke bottle. So the kids started uh, fighting for or playing with it, and started fighting for the shiny stuff they had.
Oh,
So the parents got involved, and again the whole society turned into a mess. It become the Coke bottle become a nightmare. People started the whole harmonious society turned into it. So the village elders, they decided to, since it came from the sky, so they thought the heaven sent, the God sent that stuff.
okay.
So the village elders, they decided to return it back to the gods. So one of the village elders is traveling, his mission is go to the end of the world and return it back to the gods. That was his mission. So he's traveling, he and his son traveling to the end of the world with this Coke bottle with the mission of returning backward. So uh, is traveling through the so-called Western civilization. So they're
Mhm.
looking at the Western, especially the Western world, through their Coke bottle prism. So that is the theme of the book. In the same way, even today, the current government is at least a pseudo-communist government is Kerala, and in Kerala, Kerala state is ruling it. The Kerala state is the state where first time a communist government was democratically elected. EMS Namboodiripadu, 1954. So I'm coming from that kind of state, even if it is pseudo or democratic version of the. Nowadays, I do the consulting, financial engineering, some of the stuff which I was talking about. I do it in the New York or some of the largest corporations, Fortune 10 most admired organization. Till recently, my client was the second largest alternate investment private equity firm in at least in North America, this part of the world. So I
Mhm.
do the consulting work in that kind of world. So I look at this, especially the first edition of this book. This the Gods Must Be Crazy. The first edition of this book came in 2020 during the COVID, the times during the Trump 1.01 administration. You may at that time, those were is in the whole world was tanking in front of us. And in India, I think 2022, I believe, 2021, 22 time frame, India was hit really hard. But prior to that one, the US, uh, uh, hit hit us
Sure.
really, really hard. And unfortunately, many of my own friends, my own colleagues, ex-colleagues, they perish with the COVID. So I was not sure how long I'm going to live, in that kind of environment. So I thought, let me make some of my facts straight before I die. I was not sure. So I came out with a couple of blogs
Mm.
with the subtitle of from the perspective of from the cradle of communism, a tiger ride from the cradle of communism to the catacomb of capitalism. At that time again, it was a Trump 1.0 administration. The things were literally, it was a big mess at that time, especially the companies were laying off. I mean, again, I myself lost my job one reason or other. I was no future in front of me. Nobody was hiring. Again, everybody was laying off the people. And
Mhm.
on the other side, the Chinese took big control, and especially in 2020, that time frame, took control on the COVID with the strict
Mhm.
policy or whatever. and they literally the industries, they came back. We over here we couldn't even produce even the face masks or the basic, the medicines and that kind of stuff. And we were depending on another, like, again, you guys, India produce the most of the generic drug.
Mhm.
But the chemicals coming from China, it's a different scenario. Versus over here, we were depending on the countries like India, China, and all those things. That versus that China, with through the Belt and Road Initiative, they're pretty much colonizing the two third of the world, through the Belt and Road, or now with the digital Silk Road and all those stuff. So from that
Mhm.
perspective, I wrote the book, From the Cradle of Communism to the Catacomb of Capitalism. That's the perspective I wrote that. The second version of the book, especially with the now with the Trump 2.0, since at the beginning of the year, with all the tariff wars going on and everything, looking from a short term, rather than taking care of our own fertile land, looking at for a Honda perspective, looking at a very short term kill perspective, um, I felt in a weird, the things are accelerating. When I wrote the very first book, I was more worried about my own kids, my own boys.
Mhm.
With the current scenario, what's happening, you guys may know more about the Shanghai conference, which just Modi
Yeah.
just came back. It's around
Yes.
20 countries assembled over there.
Yep.
you know
Yep.
and if you include the big countries also, some of those, many of the big countries were there. And if you include the Brazil and the South Africa and the whole Latin America, all those countries together, you're looking at the three-fourth of the world, uh, uh, ganging up against just again this part of the world. So
Yeah.
we unfortunately, so the things accelerated from the beginning of this year, especially with the past couple of months. And I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful we won't become the roadkill. I know we still, if we still have the some worn out cards to play, and still, if we assemble the team together, take care of our land, take care of our team, tend our the soil. I know, yeah. Hopefully, we can still bring back. Again, there is an opportunity for countries like India too. Again, India is also, yeah. It at least India is addressing some extent, but yeah. But, yeah.
Let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope so. And Saji, we are short of time, but of course, if our listeners they would like to check out your book
Mhm.
and also connect with you, what would be the easiest way?
They can, right now the book is primarily in the Amazon platform, including Amazon.in,
Okay.
and Ingram Spark also, but it will be soon available. It will be in the Google and Apple, and almost around 50 plus different platforms. It will be also translated to, as you can see, this book, the very first book I translated to around, including the Hebrew, Arabic, and around 18 different languages. This, I don't know, it's sharp enough. It's around. This is in Hebrew. So, so pretty soon it will be in professional. Getting this is a much larger book, around 200,000 words. But very first edition was relatively smaller. It's around 30,000 words. This. But when I do it, like it's going to be at a scholarly level, high level. It is going to be in. My first book is in the 5 different languages, including Hindi, Malayalam, Telugu, not Telugu. Telugu is not a language in Amazon publishes. Tamil, Gujarati, and all those prominent Amazon languages I'm talking about.
Got it.
So you can search by the gods must be crazy too.
Okay.
In LinkedIn, you can find me by Saji Madapat. You can search it, and I'm also. This is more on the business geopolitical side. I've spent significant portion of my on something on the Theyyam. You might have, many of your audience might have watched the Kantara movie, the Budagala.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
it came out a couple of years ago. I think that now they're coming out with Kantara
True.
2. So I spend significant time on some of those cultural aspects, especially taking care of the fertile land, like, our historic 5,000, we're from a 5,000-year-old civilization, and we can address many of those solutions. We don't need to look back, we need to look at our history, especially from, in our own culture, or even in this part of, even though it's a 200-year-old civilization. Again, I'm addressing from what happened, like, the Theodore Roosevelt's or the FDR's, like, again, the solution is within us, looking at it. So coming back, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Saji Madapat. If you search, Amazon, you can find this book, through the Gods Must Be Crazy too. And there's another platform, since I mentioned about Theyyam, you can, if you look for the theyyam.us, theyyam.us, they can find me, they can contact me through that platform too. Yeah.
Super. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes, Saji, for our listeners. And thank you so much for throwing light on this. I think business, like civilization, is a long game. And definitely, I think for our listeners, very simple takeaway: not to chase the next big thing, but building habits, and flywheels and mindset that create lasting impact for ourselves and our loved ones. So with that, I conclude this episode of BizBlend. And until next time, this is your host, Sana, signing off.
Thank Sana, can I add one more quick word, Sana? If I may.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, again, I'm a big admirer of your platform, and your platform kind of, like, there are a lot of podcasts on the AI and the technology stuff and all the, fluffs happening around. And your kind of platform, like the healthy mind, that is what I'm proposing through that. You need to take care of your mind. You can, you need to take care of, as long as you take care of your mind, and if you build a healthy mind, the technology, the tools and technologies comes and goes. And I appreciate you guys, what you're doing through your platform. Take care of uh, helping to, especially your audience, to cultivate your healthy mind.
Absolutely. And that's really empowering, Saji.
Thank you.
Great. So, with that, listeners, thank you for tuning once again to BizBlend. And do make sure to check out Saji's book and also connect with him. I'll just have all the links in the show notes for all of you. Thank you.